Before fast food and fridges, survival looked very different. Our grandparents survived on hillbilly meals that sound almost unreal today. We are talking about dishes made from leftovers, garbage, and things most people would never touch nowadays. These meals cost pennies, but were so creative and brilliant they make modern cooking look almost lazy by comparison. So, what were they really eating back then? Let's pull back the curtain. Cabbage rolls. When Eastern European immigrants started trickling into America in the early 1900s, they bought something far more valuable. They also knew exactly how to make almost nothing taste like everything. Cabbage rolls were their secret weapon. So, why was this meal so popular? Well, a head of cabbage cost next to nothing. Then came the filling, which was mostly rice. They would also add just enough ground meat tucked inside to trick the taste buds into thinking you had eaten well. Each leaf got softened, carefully wrapped around that mixture, then slowly simmered in tomato sauce. But there was something about this meal that many people didn't know about. It was more than just clever cooking, it was a cultural memory wrapped in a leaf. A taste of the old world that was reinvented inside the hardest chapter America ever lived through. And just when you think ingenuity could not go any further, the next meal rewrote every rule of survival. Garbage soup. Garbage soup sounds so wrong at first, but this might turn out to be the smartest meal on this list. Now, picture a pot that never really leaves the stove. Every day, from morning to night, it stays warm, and every time something is about to be thrown away, it goes into the pot. By something, we mean vegetable peels, a bone, wilted greens, and even leftover potato water. And it gets even more interesting. That flavor did not reset. Instead, it was built day after day, layer by layer. Scraps will be turned into something surprisingly rich. And the cost? Zero. Because everything in that pot was sourced locally, literally. But beyond the money factor, this pot meant nobody went to bed with an empty stomach. Next, ingenuity transformed scraps into something unexpectedly brilliant. Fried rice from leftovers. Before Chinese takeout existed on every corner, American grandmothers had already figured something out about last night's leftover rice. First, they would not even touch it fresh. Instead, that rice sat out, drying slowly as everyone went on with their business. Why? Because soft rice turned soggy in a pan, but dry rice is where things changed dramatically. Dry rice hits a hot pan and crisps up immediately. Each grain separates and turns slightly golden. Then came the mix that included a cracked egg, a few scraps of meat, even veggies on the edge of going bad were not spared. And instead of soy sauce, a splash of Worcestershire went in. Unexpected, yes, but it worked always. The thing is, this was not an imitation. Far from that. It was actually an invention, and it cost almost nothing as every ingredient was already on its way out. But somehow, when put in a hot pan, it all came back to life, crisp, flavorful, and filling. Leftovers seem ordinary, but one simple twist turned humble ingredients into a surprisingly elegant meal. Stuffed bell peppers. At a glance, it looks like a proper meal. It's colorful, full, and fancy looking, but don't be fooled. There's a quiet trick hiding inside these stuffed bell peppers. Each pepper was hollowed out, then packed with a mixture that felt generous, but was anything other than that. A little ground meat stretched carefully with cooked rice and breadcrumbs softened in milk. More volume, less financial implications. They would then be baked slowly in tomato sauce until everything blended together. But there's a clever part to this meal. You see, the pepper was not just about the flavor. It was structured. One shell, one portion, one complete meal. No extras needed. The fact that the ingredients were often pulled straight from the backyard also checked the most critical boxes during those times. Reliable, repeatable, and cheap. And that right there was the real magic. Up next, who might have thought that one unassuming ingredient could feed entire families for days? Lentil soup. Right now, lentils are everywhere. From trendy restaurants to wellness blogs and $40 grain bowls in cities where people pay good money to eat like they're being healthy. But there is a story about the same lentils that those people do not know. Long before the same meal got rebranded as a superfood, desperate families were surviving on them not by choice, but by necessity. 4 cents a pound is all it costs to put this meal on the table and avoid sleeping on an empty tummy. That single pound would then be slowly simmered with carrots and onions and stretched into 2 full days of meals for an entire family. But there was an upside to this meal. Lentils pack serious nutrition, especially protein, without the price of meat. Back then, that single pound would be enough to provide sufficient amounts of protein to a family longer than you would expect. But in all honesty, it was not about the nutrition factor. It was about getting through the week. Even in the simplest bites, ingenuity hid a secret that consistently kept hungry kids going strong. Peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. Don't let the simplicity fool you. This was more than just a sandwich. During the leanest, hardest years America ever had to go through, this was arguably the most important thing a mother could hand her child before school. And there's an interesting reason why it worked so perfectly. No refrigeration was needed. In an era when keeping food cold was either expensive or impossible, that single quality made peanut butter almost invaluable. Also, one jar costing just 25 cents produced dozens of sandwiches. Quantity was the in factor here. The jelly was also homemade, consisting of wild berries picked in season or any cheap fruit that was available. However, this meal went beyond the practicality. For a child growing up surrounded by scarcity, uncertainty, and quiet adult panic, unwrapping this sandwich meant they did not have to go a day hungry. It was also a parent's way of refusing to let hardship steal their child's childhood completely. Coming up, there was one humble combo that fed entire families with minimal effort. Rice and beans. Some dishes survive centuries because they are trendy. Others survive because they are simply unbeatable. Rice and beans is the latter kind. Let's start with the beans, which cost as little as 5 cents a pound, and that was during the hardest economic years America has ever faced. Yet, just one pot fed up to 8 hungry people, and no one left the table half full. In the American South, this meal became a strict Monday tradition, and that was not random. Monday was laundry day. That meant backbreaking, hours-long work that left no time for actual cooking, so beans hit the pot at dawn. They would then be left to slow simmer all day with salt pork or a leftover ham bowl. Right there was a meal that needed almost zero attention while everything else got handled. This was simply a meal that you could count on, and even now, that formula still holds up better than most modern meals. Water pie. A pie made mostly from water sounds like a bad joke until you realize it was not. Everything else on this list used something, from leftover bones to cheap cuts and wilting vegetables. But there was this meal which used almost literally nothing, and yet mothers and grandmas still managed to pull dessert out of thin air. So how did they pull off the magic? Let's start with an empty pie crust. Water was then poured straight in, next came sugar, a spoonful of flour, a scrape of lard, and a whisper of vanilla. That's the entire ingredient list. It went straight into the oven. After a while, it came out with a texture eerily close to custard. But there's a sad part to this story. Families often refused to admit they ever even made it. Neighbors did not discuss it, and nobody wrote it in letters because apparently serving water as dessert felt like the loudest possible announcement that they were losing. It revealed just how far they had to stretch just to put a meal on the table. Which meal surprised you the most? Let us know in the comments section below, and remember to subscribe to the channel for more videos just like this.